All right, another Nerdy Virgin podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Snyder. I never have guests on the podcast. I've been told by multiple people, by thousands of people. People have written in. People have called in. Josh, you need to have guests. You can't do an entire podcast. You can't be neurotic alone in a tiny room for an hour and record it and put it out there and expect to get, what's the word I'm looking for? Traction. Nevertheless, here I am doing this. I usually would have a bit of breakfast, but I'm not feeling hungry today because last night I had a 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. A 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. Because I'm a man. I'm an adult. And things are going well. A 7-Eleven ham sandwich. Which I got to tell you was delicious. Now, you may have an image of what a 7-Eleven ham sandwich is. You may hear 7-Eleven ham sandwich and you may think, this man is sad. And though you would be correct, this man is sad. Let's not drag down the sandwich. Let's not lump in the sandwich with your prejudiced view of what 7-Eleven has to offer. I'm also now drinking some seltzer water that has gone flat. That I actually enjoy. I enjoy drinking the seltzer water after it's gone flat because when it's getting I'm having trouble with the bubbles. It's getting to the point where it burns too much. But I like the flavored water, so I open the seltzer water, I leave it overnight, and then I have it in the morning. 7-Eleven ham sandwich, 7-Eleven ham sandwich, gummy bears, and flat seltzer water. I feel like all I need to do is just say that, and any self-respecting psychiatrist would say, depression. Okay, depression. 39 years old. 39 years old, depression. It was a fantastic ham sandwich, though. You know, and I've made fun of 7-Eleven in my time. I've made jokes at the expense of good old 7-Eleven. And in all fairness to 7-Eleven, it tasted very good. I don't know what it's going to do to me. The fact that I don't have an appetite this morning is kind of a red flag. That usually means my stomach has to close down while it processes whatever I did to it the day before. Which, in this case, is none other than a 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. Here was the victory part of that meal. Get ready for this. Here was the victory part of that meal. I thought I did a better job than usual savoring the gummy bears. Usually I'll, grab a handful of gummy bears, slam them into my mouth, chew, get a cramp because of the gumminess, forget that I'm even eating them and be already focused on anger or fear of whatever's going on in my life. And then I look down and I've finished the gummy bears. But this time I savored it. I ate them one at a time. Mostly one at a time. Towards the end, I ate them one at a time. And it was delightful. It was a delight. It was a delightful evening. I ate all of this while walking around the neighborhood. Because I thought, maybe I can burn some calories. Maybe if I walk while I'm eating it, it will be healthy. which I think is like saying, if I lift weights while I punch myself in the face, it builds character. After that, I played a Portal game. Here's the interesting thing about this game. They came out with Portal 2, and by they, I mean, I think the company's name is Valve. Came out with Portal 2 back in 2010, so I'm, as usual, behind the times. But then this other group of people, fans of the game, made their own fan version of it. That's, I guess, kind of a spin-off. And all Portal is you go through a series. I go through a series of test chambers, and I have this portal gun that can open a portal from one place to another, assuming the surface is correct. It only works on certain surfaces. It only seems to work on white painted surfaces. Doesn't work on non-white painted surfaces. It only seems to work on surfaces that look like those ceiling tiles. It's a very specific gun. If you're in a situation where you've got noise-canceling tiles or any kind of wire mesh on the wall or wainscoting, this wainscoting would defeat the portal gun. Quickly, you've got a portal that's from one place to the other. There's wainscoting. I can't do it. How many times have I told you I'm of no help to you? This portal gun is of no help to you if there is too much wainscoting. That is why I never portal in Victorian houses. So at any rate, this game is actually a spin-off game that a bunch of fans created, because I think the building blocks of the game were made available to the community so that anyone could make their own levels. And it's basically solving a lot of puzzles. You got to open the portal here. You got to put the box on the button. The button opens up this door. But in order to go through the door, you've got to take the box and put it somewhere else. But you got to do it without moving through this force field that will cause the box to disintegrate if you move the box through the force field. It's a puzzle-solving game. And I like it because it's less violent than some of the games I used to play, like Doom or even Half-Life. The violence was starting to bother me. I like the first-person aspect, but I like that you're not killing anybody, that I'm not killing anybody. Because I am turning into a boring old man, as opposed to a boring young man who eats a 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. Which sounds like it could be a really, really, really depressing country. 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. I got lots of pains and lots of cares until I eat my 7-Eleven ham sandwich and my gummy bears. Well, I think these Grammy Award-winning songs just write themselves. Played Portal. Went to bed. I don't remember falling asleep. I never remember falling asleep. But I think I fell asleep pretty fast. Had a pretty good sleep. It was difficult waking up. The alarm. I slept in for an extra half hour because It was waking up it was painful to wake up, which means I didn't get enough sleep. I could have slept for another couple hours. Would have been better. Those gummy bears took a lot out of me. I'm still recovering. And, the club's open again. I work at a comedy club, and things are getting back to normal in that I'm freaking out over guest counts. I was hoping that the stress of the pandemic, that after the stress of the pandemic, I would not be as worried about the things that I used to think were so bad. That was my hope, that I would come out of the pandemic with this kind of that same stoicism that the World War II generation always seemed to have. And that is not the case. I still have anxiety. I still worry. But I was told by a very good friend over the weekend that this is something that stuck with me, that worrying is not responsibility. Worrying is not responsibility. Which I think means instead of worrying about what could happen, I have to take responsibility for what is happening. And when and if something happens, I have to take responsibility for that and take actions to deal with it. Which sounds very healthy. But it does remind me that for me, when it comes to anxiety, the number one thing I can do, aside from meditation, which helps, which is why I don't do it, but the number one thing I can do is do something. Don't sit. If I'm worrying, that means I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting around and I'm thinking about it. So I really am. I'm committed to jumping into action as opposed to not jumping into action. 7-Eleven ham sandwich. That should be the name of this podcast. Jackie and Lori, that's what in the middle of their podcast, they'll go, and that's the name of the podcast. And I am stealing that. 7-Eleven ham sandwich is the name of this podcast. You know what's odd about it, too? Is that I actually did have a craving for a ham sandwich. Specifically a ham sandwich. My body said to me, there's something in that ham that we need. And then the other part of my body said, so I guess we're just not going to try to be Jewish at all here? We're going to go right for the ham? Really? And the first part of my body said, well, think of all the Jews you know who ignore that stuff. And then the other part of my body said, yeah, that's a good point. So you're saying that by eating the ham sandwich, we're actually more Jewish than not eating the ham sandwich. Correct. If you eat the ham sandwich and you feel guilty about it, you are still Jewish. And I felt better, and I ate the ham sandwich. And the gummy bears. Sorry, ham sandwich. I believe I just said hand sandwich, which is a totally different sandwich, not one I would recommend. I don't even know, a hand sandwich? Which sounds like if they made Han Solo into a sandwich. Why would anyone do that? Why would you do that to Han Solo? I ask you. Is it time to go to movie news? Is that where we're at? We're at movie news? Is that what it's time to do? I'm feeling a bit subdued today. Had a long... new trailer, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. I'm looking forward to it. I think that'll be a good movie. But I don't feel like watching the trailer because I feel like I already know what it's going to be. A bunch of bad guys teaming up to save the day. And there will be explosions, and there's going to be Judd Apatow style tangential lines of dialogue in between the lines of dialogue that move the plot forward. Ziegler is Disney's live-action Snow White. Didn't they just do a Snow White? Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Mark Webb will direct and Mark Platt will produce the new take on the Brothers Grimm fairy tale. The new film will expand upon the story and music from the Disney's inaugural feature. Didn't they just do a Snow White? Am I crazy? What was the one with, didn't they do one with, what's her name? With Kristen Stewart? Wasn't that only 5 years ago? How many Snow Whites? And then what about Angelina Jolie? Was that Snow White or Cinderella where she was haven't they done this? You know what? The fact that I can't even remember that well tells me that I guess it's fine that they keep doing this. No, there were 2 Snow Whites that came out the same year. This is what I can't figure out. What giant group of people is out there going, we need another Snow White? Is there any child right now that's looking up to their mother going, I need a new version of Snow White? But honey, there's 50. We can pop them in right now. No. I need a 2021 version of Snow White. But honey, they're just going to, it's just a live action version of this movie right there. Yeah, you just said it. Live action version. I need 2021 special effects. But this is a Disney classic right here. You can just, it's the same exact thing. No, it's not the same thing. Is Mark Webb directing it? I don't think so. You're 3 years old. How do you even know who Mark Webb is? Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. The dwarves take in Snow White. The dwarves save Snow White. And Snow White develops a symbiotic relationship with the Seven Dwarves. And at the end of the movie, or at the end of the story, she marries the prince, not one of the dwarves. Because that would be ridiculous. Ending up with a character actor? Are you kidding me? That's not a Disney movie. I always thought she should have ended up with Grumpy. That's the version I want to see. I want to see her end up with Grumpy. He comes out and he says, "Stop singing to the birds. They're going to crap all over the lawn." Gee, I wonder why she went with the prince and not with Grumpy. But I feel like it could have been if Snow White had ended up with Grumpy, it could have been like a George Bernard Shaw kind of My Fair Lady thing between Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. What was the character's name? I remember the sidekick's name, Pickering, but what was the main character's name? Well, Eliza Doolittle, that was her name. And then what was his name? Well, the guy. It could have been like that, where they're just snarky to each other. See, that would have been, and then the sequel would have been basically Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but with Snow White and Grumpy, and Snow White saying, "I should have married the prince," and Grumpy saying, "Yeah, you should have. You should have married the prince, but you didn't. You married me." And now we're together. So deal with it. I just don't understand. How many times do you need to make Snow White? in a decade? How many different versions of Snow White are out there? Why do we need to go sit down in a movie theater and look for 2 hours at a young woman looking concerned? And listen, I don't even want. This isn't even a gender issue. Just a young, a young heroic character in an unfamiliar situation, looking concerned. Can we at least do a new take? What if they go, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And they say Snow White is the fairest of them all, and Snow White turns out to be a 65-year-old woman of a certain age. Who is the fairest of them all because of her inner soul. What about that? What about that movie? What about that version of Snow White? What if the Queen says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror says, "I don't even know how to answer that question. That doesn't even make sense. Do you know how subjective beauty is? Haven't you got better things to do? You're the Queen. Aren't we at war with 5 other countries?" How did the Queen in Snow White become Snow White? Wasn't that another movie? I feel like this has already been answered. I got to move forward. Scoob team reunite for follow-up. So they made a prequel to Scooby-Doo called Scoob. A prequel. So I think this was the story of how they all met. And then I think the Scoob version. Now, the part of this that I think is interesting is that they brought in characters from other cartoons like Blue Falcon, Captain Caveman, and Dick Dastardly. And they're calling it the Hanna-Barbera universe. That everything is a universe now. That's what I love. Everything is everything is a universe. Everything is a cinematic universe. The Marvel universe, the DC universe, the Scooby-Doo, the Hanna-Barbera universe, the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe. It's just so epic. The George Bernard Shaw cinematic universe. The When Harry Met Sally cinematic universe. I think I think there's more. There's definitely more we can do in the Knights and Rodanthe cinematic universe. Definitely a spinoff featuring some of these satellite characters. We're going to do a prequel for Diane's character in Knights and Rodanthe. There's a lot in this universe that really hasn't been covered. A lot that hasn't been covered in this Primary Colors cinematic universe. Cinematic universe of The Graduate. I mean, haven't you wanted to know more about the guy who said plastics, that character? That's a whole movie right there. What about the person who cleaned the pool in The Graduate cinematic universe? I remember they came out with a movie, it must have been 10 years ago, that was called Rumor Has It. And the conceit of the movie is that the main character's mother was the inspiration for the movie The Graduate. And Kevin Costner, I think, was the guy who the mother was with, something like that, right? And then in this movie, Kevin Costner, who was with the mother, ended up then being with the daughter. And it was this weird thing that I think I watched it. I think it was good, right? It was good. I remember it being just I don't know, somehow a strange concept that there's this whole. It turns out The Graduate was real, and but I don't think it was real. But in the movie, it was real. Very confusing. Very confusing situation, that movie. Rumor has it. But you know what? It's a cinematic universe, and I think that I want to definitely see more of that Kevin Costner character, of the guy who's based on the Dustin Hoffman character. Oh, you know what they can do? They can do a crossover where they do the multiverse where the Kevin Costner character meets the Dustin Hoffman character, and they have to solve crimes. Love it. They have to solve crimes and sleep with older women. How is this not? You know, nobody ever listens to me. What can I say? Scoob. They didn't call it Scooby-Doo. They called it Scoob because it's a prequel. It's a prequel, so there needs to be less letters in it, I guess. I don't know. I've complained about Scooby-Doo before. What more is there to say? How can you have a talking dog who has human intelligence, but he's still wearing a collar? That feels wrong. I'm looking at this promotional photo. The dog has a human intellect and still has a collar. Who owns the dog? This is... How has nobody protested this? I think it's... What is Scooby-Doo? Is it a basset hound? I think it's a basset hound. Actually, let me look that up. I believe it is a basset hound. Scooby-Doo character. Great Dane. I am so sorry. A Great Dane. Now, I'm looking at an actual picture of a Great Dane, and I'm looking at Scooby-Doo, and I would have no... How do we know that it is a Great Dane? Writers Joe Ruby and Ken Spears created the original Scooby-Doo series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Originally titled Mysteries 5. The dog who later became Scooby was originally more of a sidekick character, a bongo-playing dog named Too Much. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. I think that initial impulse was right. That's how I feel whenever I see this show. I want to say, you are too much. And then Scooby says, that was my original name. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I know it was. And it will be again one day. It always will be your name in my heart. There are so many people in my life who I would want to rename Too Much. Yes, this is Tim, this is John, and this is Too Much. Trust me, you'll know why that name is a thing very, very shortly. The breed varied between Great Dane and Sheepdog between treatments. Do you think that was contentious in the writer's room? It's a Great Dane. No, it's a sheepdog. It's a sheepdog. All right. Joe, calm down, okay? If you really, really wanted to be a sheepdog, that's fine. But I just think artistically, just from a spiritual, artistic place, we got to go with a Great Dane. A Great Dane. Well, what about Great Danes? We're just doing a deep dive on the Wikipedia. Also known as the German Mastiff or the Deutsch dog, the Deutsch doggy. It's a breed of dog from Germany. Maybe that's why I never liked Scooby-Doo. As a Jewish man, listen. Let's calm down. All right, let's stop with this making fun of the Germans thing. These are not the Germans that were the Germans in the 1930s. Let's calm down. But is there a Jewish dog? I don't think there is a Jewish dog. I don't think there is a Jewish dog. Is there a dog that originated in Israel? Maybe there is. The Canaan dog, the national dog of Israel, is a herding and flock sentry dog originating in the land of Canaan. Well, I guess there is. Let's take a look. I didn't know about this. They didn't mention this in the pamphlet. Canaan dog, also known as the Bedouin sheepdog and the Palestinian pariah dog. Wow. Am I reading that right? The Palestinian pariah dog? That can't be the right name. Pry dog, or sometimes pariah dog. Ownerless, half-wild, free-ranging dog. The term is derived from the Hindi pahi, which translates to outsider. Since the time immemorial, the Bedouins have used this dog for guarding their herds and camps. This is the Canaan dog. According to tradition, at the time of the diaspora, the Israelites were forcibly removed from their land and had to leave behind their dogs, which reverted to the wild. The Canaan dog is a wild type of dog in appearance. It's a medium-sized square-built dog with a wedge-shaped head, erect and low-set ears, with a broad base and rounded tips. Canaan dogs are alert, react quickly, and distrust strangers. They are strongly defensive but not aggressive. I hate to say it, but that sounds pretty Jewish to me. Alert, react quickly, distrust strangers, strongly defensive but not aggressive. That is me. Yeah, well, where's the cartoon with this dog? The pariah dog. Wow. That's a name, isn't it? That's a bit of an insulting name. But I find this truly there is a Jewish dog. There it is. Alert, react quickly, distrust strangers, strongly defensive. Yep, that's it. We need this dog in Scooby-Doo. I think this is the dog that would say, no, his name is not Scooby-Doo. His name is Too Much. Too Much. That has to be a character name somewhere. That has to be a character name somewhere. Too Much. That should be my name, because I am too much for people. Oh my goodness. The things we are discovering today. This dog, when I look at this dog looks like it would be, I gotta be, this dog looks like the opposite of Scooby-Doo in terms of focus. Scooby and Shaggy are running away, and the dog is saying, I think we should call for reinforcements. We should get the Israeli Defense Force here. Do you want me to get the Israeli Defense Force here? We'll solve this problem. There's no need to solve the mystery. We will simply come in here and solve the problem. And now my fear is, as I'm riffing on this, that I'm getting into a very tricky political commentary, which I don't want to go into because I'm not qualified to go into the whole Israeli-Palestinian thing, which always terrifies me to even talk about. Because I don't at all feel like an authority on the matter at all. And I don't, but I feel, as someone Jewish watching this situation, I don't like what I'm seeing. I mean, I think that you know what? Here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I will tell you. Here's what pisses me off. I hate when people look down on cartoons and comic books and dismiss them as childish. Because, they say that comic books are, these comic book movies are childish. The theme of Spider-Man is with great power comes great responsibility. And I think there's a lot of leaders who could use a good Spider-Man movie right now, who have forgotten that with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that in my life, I have to remind it's not worrying, it's responsibility. Got to take responsibility for my actions, and I have to take responsibility for the effect I have on other people. All this from comic books. And, when I think about the Israeli-Palestinian thing, you know who I think about? I think of Optimus Prime, frankly, who says, freedom is the right of all sentient beings. So that's that's where I go. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings, period. Is everybody free? No? Well, then we're not there yet. And we all have to work together to get to that point. And this goes beyond even Israel and Palestine. This is the whole world. Are all sentient beings free? No? Then we're not done. We're not done. We got to keep working. And there's no right and there's no wrong. There is everyone's free or everyone's not free. And if everyone's not free, then we are not finished yet. That's my hot take on that. There you go. There's my hot take on that. Getting political with the Canaan dog and the German Mastiff and the Great Dane. But I'm looking at pictures of the Canaan dog, and it wouldn't fit. The Canaan dog would not fit the vibe of Scooby-Doo, because this is a very serious looking dog. And I think just as soon as Shaggy and Scooby were like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to go up there, the dog would say, we need to investigate this. Lives could be at stake. All right, we need to split up into two groups. We need to get the SEAL team in here. Let's do this. That's what I would see. Well, this is a new record. I've gone 39 minutes into the podcast without feeling the need to apologize to somebody. But now I would like to apologize if I've offended anybody with my thoughts on the Mideast. I'm just an idiot trying to do a comedy podcast. That's all I am. I'm by no means an expert on anything. And now I'm terrified that this actually, I will talk about this as somebody who works at a comedy club. I do think the cancel culture stuff has gotten a little bit out of hand. And I can tell because I'm meeting a lot of younger comedians who are afraid they're afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing, and they're starting to censor themselves a lot on stage. And I don't I think that's a very dangerous thing, and I think that I think that comedians, our goal is to make people laugh, and I think that I've heard other comics talk about this, so I'm kind of paraphrasing when they say, our job is to figure out what the line is and dance on the end of the line. And when we're working stuff out, and when haven't found it yet, it is easy to cross the line. And I think that comedians should be forgiven, because I don't think the intent is to cause pain. The intent is to cause laughter. And I think there's a difference between a comedian who's trying to be funny on stage and actual bona fide hate speech coming out of the mouth of people who have a long-standing hatred and fear of the other. I think there's a big difference, and I think there's been and I just feel like overall we need to find the middle way on how who's criticized for what. I think that that's my. So I think that I wish there was a little bit more of a relaxation towards how comedians are treated, and a little bit of a leeway that's given. The only way that comedians can develop material is in front of an audience. So the only way that they know whether or not something works is they have to try it in front of people. And they have to be allowed to fail, and they have to be allowed to make mistakes in order to get better. And so I think that, very often sometimes what's people are reacting to, basically people are reacting to a rough draft. They're not reacting to the final product. And I don't know that that's really a fair assessment of the comedian. And I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's right. I mean, and, it's a spectrum. Are there comedians who are, way too misogynistic and racist, et cetera, et cetera? I suppose there are. But then again, in any, there are people like that everywhere. But I think there's a danger. The fact that the fact that I'm talking with young comedians who are afraid to say the wrong thing, the fact that they're afraid to say the wrong thing, the fact that I'm afraid to say the wrong thing, that there's this, major self-censorship thing that's happening, I think is a real danger to what we do, and I don't think it's founded in logic. I don't think it's, I think it's it's a fear-based mindset. And I'm not saying, by the way, that I advocate hate speech at all. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I think what I'm saying is that I think that there needs to be more of an investigation into context, and there needs to be more of a willingness to understand where the person was coming from before there is this huge judgment that is made by the virtual, by the Twitter mobs. And maybe that's just maybe, this is the way it's always been in a way. It's just, it feels more immediate because it's happening in real time on Twitter. Well, this got dark, didn't it? This got dark and serious pretty fast. I guess I just wish that the stand-up comedy stage could be a place where it's universally agreed that everything said on the stage is said out of jest, and that nothing said on this stage should be taken seriously. None of the people on this stage should be taken seriously, and that when we're all there, comedians and audience are leaving their concerns at the door, and we go up and we say what we feel. Because I would imagine that the other, if comedians are feeling this pressure and this worry that, I'm going to say the wrong thing, I think that probably people in greater parts of society are feeling that. And it's creating a repression. And wherever there's repression, I think there is a suppression of energy, which, if left untreated, can lead to bigger problems down the road. So the question is, and I think the power of stand-up is, how do you release that in a way that doesn't hurt anybody? And that's where, comedians have to work that out and dance on the line between going too far and still being funny, but releasing that tension. And this turned into a terrible TED Talk. But I feel bad for comics who feel who feel afraid, And then, of course, the sheer irony is that I also see a lot of comics who, say the misogynistic things and the racist things and have no problem with it. And the irony is that the people who probably are racist and misogynist have no problem talking about it, even in this climate, and the people who are not are the ones who are freaking out about it. That's the sheer irony of this situation. Now I've talked myself into a depression. But I think this was a conversation worth having, right? Or am I going to get canceled now? He criticized cancel culture. Cancel him. Well, I know Kevin Hart just came out with an article where he was talking about this. I didn't read it, but I heard somebody talking about it, which in this country means I've read it. That's where we're going with knowledge. Well, I heard my friend say something on Facebook, ergo, I know who I'm voting for now. That's creepy. But I got to say, I think we accomplished a lot in this podcast. We learned there are Jewish dogs, and we also learned that Scooby-Doo used to be named Too Much, which is a name that I want to give. There's so many people on Earth right now where I'm like, that's your name. Your name is now Too Much. What a great name! I'm so bummed they didn't go with that name. If they'd have gone with that name, I mean, it totally would have changed the theme song. Because it can't be Scooby, Scooby-Doo, where are you? The song would have been Too Much. It's too much. And that would have been the song. Dun 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 dun. Too much. It's too much. That's the end of the song. It's too much. All right. Good. We're at 50 minutes. We did it. We're at 50 minutes. Well, we're at 49 minutes and 18 seconds, but you get the general idea. This was, I feel good about this. I feel good about this one, I think. I feel good about this. It's basically me just paraphrasing Kevin Hart, I think. So that's fantastic, isn't it? I suppose it is fantastic. I feel like it, but what's the ending? How do I end this? Well, as Hemingway would say, just write one truthful sentence. I ate a 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears last night. I'm not an authority on anything. I can tell you my opinion about cancel culture, but just remember, it's coming from the mouth of a guy who ate a 7-Eleven ham sandwich. Ham sandwich. Why am I dropping my M's? 7-Eleven ham sandwich and gummy bears. All right, we're done. That's the end of this podcast. Goodbye.